The Sick Podcast, Recruits Draftcast, is back yet again. And from now on, we'll be back Wednesday nights, okay? Put it in your calendar. Recruits Draftcast, Wednesday nights from now on. Today, we got a packed show yet again. Even though there's not much hockey, there is still prospect talk to be had. We'll be looking at the Habs' recent draft video they released, a game between the SKA Petersburg and Torpedo that Grant watched. Lots of interesting things there. We'll get to our Habs prospect of the week, our riser of the week, faller of the week, and prospect of the week. Starts right now.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Recruits Draftcast.
And with the first overall selection in the 2023 NHL Draft, the Chicago Blackhawks are very proud to select from the Regina Pats, the Western Hockey League, Connor Bedard.
The sickest NHL draft and scouting podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Joined as always by the magnificent Grant McCagg. I am your host, producer Shane. Grant, we got a little nugget of content from the Habs this week or this past week when they finally released the behind-the-scenes draft video with all the discussions with the scouts and the interviews at the combine and all that. It was only about 17 minutes, but it showed a lot of good stuff. Now, you always got to take these videos with a grain of salt, right? The team chooses what it makes it to the video, so there's a lot that we didn't get to see. But from what we got to see, you and I both talked to each other this morning about this guy. Jacob Fowler is looking fantastic. I mean, the mentality on this guy is A1. That's exactly what you want from a goaltender prospect. Just give me your thoughts on what you saw from Jacob Fowler, how much he impressed you.
Yeah, agreed for sure. Confidence is such a key to a goaltender mindset. It might be the most important asset that you have in a goaltender. And Carey Price, certainly, it was one of the reasons why he was so highly touted in his draft year. And just the answers, and like I mentioned it to you and you agreed, like the way he answered that question and was just, I thought it was perfect. I mean, if I was sitting there at that draft table right then and there, I'd say, no, let's draft this kid. He now, maybe keep our second round picks. It was interesting. I presume that most of those clips were made after they had traded for Newhook, because certainly they discussed, who they were probably going to target. And all of the discussions were, I do believe, in mind with them not having their 2 second-round picks. So I presume that most of that stuff was taken from meetings that were like either they already knew they were trading for Newhook or it was right after. So, but Fowler, I thought he had perfect answer to that question, and he's he's out to prove that OHL teams were wrong and not picking him. And I believe USHL never drafted him either. So
that's it.
Anyway, he's got stuff to prove. And I love that clip. And I think that Fowler is someone that we can really look forward to seeing develop at the college level.
Yeah, I mean, he blew me away when he was talking about knowing every single player in the USHL. I mean, we have that clip. Might as well listen to it, right? Let's bring it up if we can.
Tell me if they're righty, lefty, passer, shooter.
Perfect.
Okay. Harvey, Chicago.
He's a passer. He's a lefty.
Lefty. Perron.
Perron's a shooter, and he's a righty. He's got a really good shot.
Fine.
Fine's a righty. Didn't see too much of it this year. I'd say he's probably more of a passer, yeah.
So you know your stuff?
I do. You can probably go up and down the whole USHL, and I could name righty, lefty.
Now, when did you start studying it like that?
I don't think it was ever a study as much as just not even a photo memory. You play against those guys, and if you want to stop those guys, you're going to figure out real quick if he's a righty or lefty if you want to stop the puck. I mean, you can't play your short side wrong if it's a righty on his one side or a lefty on the other side. So I think if you don't know what hands they are, or if they're a shooter or pass, you're not going to be very successful.
And that is so good. That is so good. Like for a goaltender to be that aware of the fact that, okay, this guy, I know he's a passer, so you might pass to this guy, right? He's anticipating every move, and he knows which side every player shoots from. That's insane. And he's not even studying these guys, right? He's not staying up late watching tape. He just knows it. That's insane.
It's funny when I saw that clip, because a few months ago, somebody from Slovakia posted an answer on Twitter to something I was saying, and it was from Adam Gayan. He said that he told him that he'd been asked that question by a Habs scout, left, right, and he thought it was weird that they had been asking that. And obviously it was true, because that's exactly what they asked Fowler, was like, which way does this guy shoot? Which way does that guy shoot? I don't think that's weird at all. I think that's a great question to ask a goalie. And I thought it was great that Fowler knew the answer to all of them. And as he said, he didn't necessarily study it. He just instinctively knows from playing against them. So that's I have a good friend that scouts in the U.S. that actually is a former goaltender himself, and he was saying that, like, Fowler is just his intelligence is what stood out above all else, and that shines through in any interview that we've seen.
Yeah, that's true. And another thing that really, I guess, stood out to me was his competitiveness and his will to win and prove doubters wrong, right? He talked about, watching the entire OHL draft for like 6 hours and not being drafted, and then finally being picked up by Youngstown. And he said that Youngstown was lucky to have me, because I was on a mission to pay to make the others pay, right? So that's going to be the same case in the NHL, right? He got passed on by every single team, and then finally got picked up by the Habs. So now he's going to give it to them when it comes time. I'm really excited. I think Habs fans should be really excited about this guy, but it will take time, right? Goalie prospects don't develop quickly. Those are outliers, right? So give him some time, but that's a really good pick, and we see why now.
Well, we also saw in the discussions that Vinny Riendeau was having with the Boston area scout, where all he's done is win. Always the top save percentage, the top win percentage, all the way through. I think what has hurt him is he's a little chunky, and he doesn't have a very athletic build. Mm-hmm. And that scared some teams away, because you think, well, but what if he gets in really good shape?
Exactly.
It reminds me a lot of Tim Thomas. Yeah. A lot of Tim Thomas. I mean, all Tim Thomas did was stop pucks and win as well. May not have been the most athletic. Certainly wasn't the most athletic body. But I mean, won the Bruins a cup, so you can't. Yeah. So let's see how it works out. But since the draft, and the more you get to know about this kid, the more intrigued you are about him, and it's going to be fun seeing him going up against Hudson and the boys there at BC against BU. It just makes that rivalry is going to be so fun to watch this year. Celebrini too. Celebrini's playing, So I mean, there's tons of reasons to watch those games, and I'm lucky enough to have NESN here, and a lot of those games are on, and I'm gonna tune into as many of those BC games as possible.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be watching clips for sure. But considering that, like going back to the weight concern, right? I think that's a factor that can easily be fixed. Get him under the right nutritionist, the right workout program. He's not at the NHL level yet. Once he gets to that point, he physically matures. He's still 18 years old, right? So, to me, that's really not much of a concern. Moving on to an aspect of the video that we found peculiar, to say the least. The Habs had some psychologist, I forget his name, in the interview room at the draft combine, and we saw a few clips of him. He was an interesting character, but one of the questions he asked to David Reinbacher, actually, we have the clip. Let's listen to that one.
You know the bank machine where you get the money, you put your card in and you get the money?
Yeah.
You are waiting in line to go to the machine, okay?
Yeah.
And there is two little old ladies there in front of you.
Yeah.
But before the next woman can get there, this guy comes straight in, goes right to the machine, just jumps in front of you folks and goes to the machine. What would you do in that situation?
I would say something to the guy. There's respect to every guy or every human. If there's a line, you gotta respect the line and stay behind the line. Especially if they're older women's, they need a little bit longer. So you gotta respect that and help them.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
I was scratching my head big time when I watched it the first time. Not at David Reinbacher's answer. I thought that's the correct answer. At the question itself, however, because I get the fact that they're bringing in a psychologist. They want to see what the human is like, right? They know what the player's like. They see him on the ice. What kind of person is he? And I'm not sure this question really paints a good picture of who David Reinbacher would be, right? If you're being asked this question in a job interview, you're obviously going to answer, oh, I'm going to say something. I'm going to do something, right? I don't think the question is ambiguous enough to actually get a clear look at the thought process of this player, how he would respond in certain situations. I don't know. I had a bit of a problem with this question, Grant. What did you think?
Yeah, and especially as you say, when they only have a set time limit with these guys. So why are you wasting it? Why are you wasting it asking? I'd be curious to know which guy said, "Oh, I'd be fine with it."
That's it. I'd let him go.
Yeah, he might be bigger than me, and I'd be scared, so I wouldn't say anything. Who's going to say that? Or, like you say, the answer is obvious. So why bother with the question? Mm-hmm. The psychologist is, I guess, every draft combine, they ask about what was the weirdest question you got asked, and invariably it's one that was asked by the Canadian psychologist. Yep. What kind of if you were a plant or an animal, or what would you be? That that you've heard that prospects talk about in the last 3 years. I think that was born of the Montreal psychologist that comes in, and I mean, he's got his. I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not going to be overly critical of it. He obviously has his reasons for why he asks these questions, but yeah, that one especially, I have to agree with you. There's an obvious answer to it, so I'm not sure why it was asked. But hey, I say, I'm not a psychologist, so we'll leave that to the experts.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I heard, we heard rumblings of this question about founding $100 bill in the toilet, and are you going to pick it up? That kind of stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if it came from this guy too. And then I heard something about another question regarding saving teammates on the beach of Normandy during D-Day. It's just, come on, pushing the envelope a little too much. It's getting away from hockey. It's really, I don't know. Again, I'm not a psychologist either, so that's his job. If it works, it works. Trust the process. But it was certainly strange and a bit funny. So yeah, if you haven't seen this video yet, go on the Habs YouTube page. It's about 17 minutes long. Highly recommend it. It's a lot of good stuff in there. But moving on from that now, Grant, today there was a game played, right? The KHL is very much active right now. There's a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of eyes on SKA St. Petersburg, the team of Matvei Michkov and Ivan Demidov, who we've talked about at great lengths. Interesting thing is that Michkov hadn't played the first 2 games of the season. Now, he did play today. However, Demidov is the opposite. He played the first 2, and he didn't play today. So what did you think about the game? What did you think about Michkov, all that? I'll let you get to it.
It was a good game. 4-3 for Torpedo. Galchenyuk had a golden opportunity with a second left, and goalie made a save. It's funny, it was 2-2, and SKA was a little lax defensively, their last 2 goals, and guess who was the main culprit for that? Chucky. I don't know. There's going to be ups and downs with him playing center, as we saw, in his days with Montreal. If Claude was Julian was watching that game today, he had flashbacks to having Chuck at center with the Canadians, but up and down game for him. Michkov essentially replaced Demidov in the lineup, and playing the wing. With Galchenyuk being brought in to play center, that pretty well, I think, spells the end of Michkov's the experiment with Michkov at center, because I think he's probably 5th or 6th on the depth chart right now at center. Because the other kid, Kusnadinov, who was 37th overall from Minnesota a couple of years ago, he plays center too. He sat out the last game as well, but he was back in centering Michkov on the 3rd line. I don't think that you'll see Michkov at center with SKA anymore. And it's probably going to be him, and it seems like they like to sit out the young lads. So it's going to be him and Demidov probably alternating, sitting out type thing. Based on what I saw today, I wouldn't be surprised if Michkov sits out again the next game and Demidov's back in. He looked a little tentative. Didn't have a lot of puck touches. Was kind of standing still, wondering what. He's probably scared to make a mistake right now. Where he'd be back out of the lineup, because I think he originally kind of got sat because he had a bad turnover in his own zone. So you see that with a lot of young kids. They get afraid to make a mistake, and then they end up not playing, with confidence and playing the game that they normally play. So right now, I think he's a little confused and a little lacking confidence, and it showed. And I wouldn't be surprised if he sits again the next game. And we keep seeing that kind of throughout the year. I still think what could probably happen with him is that he gets loaned to a weaker team again and gets more ice time, but we'll see. I don't know that they'd send him back to junior. I mean, that might be the best thing for him, but I think maybe Demidov too, they might consider doing that as well based on. It's funny though, like Demidov was one of their best players in the preseason, so I'm a little surprised they've been sitting him out, but that seems to be just the way Rottenberg operates. The kids are the ones that have to sit out and learn in the stands. You got to be patient. So, but Konyushkov, the Canadiens defenseman, played. He played first power play, first pairing, first penalty kill. Very solid. Another solid game. He very mobile, very smart, great at puck retrievals. He's not a tall kid, but he's strong and he leverages himself well. Protects the puck well, especially along the boards. Makes really smart first pass. had a couple of giveaways in the game, but I think everybody SKA is pretty good, pretty heavy on the forecheck, and they were creating a lot of turnovers. But for the most part, I think he played 20 plus minutes again, and he was really solid. So that's encouraging for the Canadians. And what's also neat is that they have another defenseman there that we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes that is draft eligible, who plays on the right side as well. And he looked great. So I'm going to be seeing a lot of Torpedo this year because this kid's on it, and I want to keep an eye on Konishkov as well.
Yeah. So speaking on Bogdan Konishkov, he is the Habs prospect of the week, right? Slim pickings because there's only hockey in Russia right now, but nonetheless, he does belong to the Habs. 4th round pick, 110th overall in 2023. So overall, what can you say about this kid? Like, what could he project to be? Like, Habs fans don't really know this guy. I don't really know him all that well. So what can you tell us some more about him?
Yeah, well, I sort of covered it there earlier, but I think he's really solid. Plays big minutes. He played last 4 games. He played out on average more than 24 minutes a game. Had 133 puck touches per game, and he here he is. Okay. See the way he backs up with the puck, just very mobile, smooth. I love his backwards skating. Like, he skates better backwards than I did forward, when I played. But like, he's faster. Look at him. See the leverage he uses? That's a big guy. And he uses his leverage really, really well. But these are just a few clips from one game that in the preseason, and you see the nonsense first pass. He gets out. There he is using his leverage again. Very mobile, very steady. Igor Larionov is a coach, and he just loves him. He plays him, like I say, 24 minutes a game.
Wow.
Hardly gets off the ice, and in every important situation, makes the smart, poised first pass quite often. This kid's not far away from being NHL ready, I don't think, because he's one of the better, more solid defensemen in the KHL already. That was an interesting pick in the 4th round. A kid that a little older, who already proved himself at the KHL level. Likely didn't get to see him much the last 2 years for several reasons. Like, obviously, North American scouts couldn't get in to see games. With COVID 2 years ago, you weren't drafting that many KHLers. And then with them not being in any international events, there's a few sleepers like that got picked, I think, over the last 2 years. And he's one of them. So for a 4th round pick where they got him, I think that was a solid choice.
Awesome. Well, that's encouraging if you're a Habs fan. Staying on the Nizhny Torpedo, I believe I pronounced that correctly. The riser of the week, we'll see some footage here, is Anton Silayev. Talk to us about this guy. High praise for you.
He's been fantastic. Just like, I'd never even heard of him for a week or two ago. Saw his name, decided to do a little scouting. Noticed that he played in the first game for Torpedo. He's on the second pairing. He's a left shooting defenseman, and they have him playing 19 minutes a game on his offside as a 17-year-old. Fantastic mobility. They showed a stat today during the game that they do for KHL games where the fastest players on the ice, and he was the 3rd fastest. Now, I'm not sure exactly how. I guess it is like during the game, the point where you skate the fastest. I guess I don't think it's average speed or whatever. Can't really do that. So he had the third fastest time as far as skater goes and speed wise in the game. That's a 6'7", 17-year-old defenseman playing against men in the KHL against what's considered to be the top team.
Yeah.
And he was the third fastest. Mighty impressive. He's got great mobility. Here's an assist. He picked up an assist today. First shift, came in, went right to the net, almost scored, got an assist. Then the next shift, he makes a rush, gets the puck in the slot, and rings it off the goalpost. Now, that was the one concern or wonder about him, because I love his defensive game from what I've seen so far. Is there some offense? And today, it just, like, the confidence level of this kid, he's kind of come from nowhere. He had like 8 points in junior last year. Now he's a second pairing KHL defenseman. Wow. So the improvement curve is just skyrocketing with this kid. I've moved him into the top 10 in my rankings. He's I think he's right now. I don't see a defenseman with more upside than him. I mean, he's he is on an upward, skyrocket. I think he's. To be honest with you, I like, as far as big defenseman goes with potential, since Victor Hedman, I don't know that I've seen another big defenseman with the potential that I see in this guy. Wow. As far as defensive defenseman goes, he covers a ton of ice out there, and his stick, he's got Chera like stick, like his length. It's got to be six and a half feet long, his stick. And there's one clip there where he pokes the puck away, and he's about, he's half the rink away, and he just sticks his the puck's in front of the net, and he just pokes it away. The length that he's got is amazing. Really mobile, very smart. I love his first pass. He's got a bit of grit too, and that's at 17 years old playing in the KHL. So I noticed he's under contract till 2026, and that's fine, because unlike some guys like Michkov, this kid's going to be playing lots. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Igor Larionov has a great reputation for developing young kids, and it's one of the reasons I think that the Canadians had no problem with taking Konishkov, because Larionov's reputation is stellar when it comes to developing young talent. So this kid is easily the riser of the week for me. He's jumped into my top 10. I've been working, I probably put 150 hours of video in the last couple of weeks watching prospects. Wow. And I've developed, I have a top 80 list now, preliminary rankings. I've never done one before January, but seeing that we have this podcast going, and I've been gung-ho about that, and I want to start our next podcast. If we get in a special one before Wednesday, just kind of releasing my draft rankings, if we can find time, we'll do a special podcast on my preliminary draft rankings, and look for the silly one there, Saleyev, to be somewhere in the top 10, and maybe the top ranked defenseman. I love him. So,
all right, I'm looking forward to that. Yes, keep your eyes peeled. Potential special video coming your way. Moving on to Faller of the Week. Who do you got?
Well, as we've been discussing this Faller thing, we're a little bit reticent to have a fall, call it a Faller. So this week there was no Faller. Instead, I've got a Mauler of the week. Yeah, and it's another Russian kid. And again, that's, they're the ones that are playing. So been getting to see a lot of them. But this kid, Igor Surin, I don't think he's related to Bruni.
I doubt it.
Former Canadian sprinter.
Yeah.
Here he is.
Okay.
I just put together some clips of some of the hits. He's number 70 in white. Now he's only 5'10", but he's got to be built like a brick. You know what? Because
Yeah.
as you can see by these clips, he
Ooh.
he has no issue
Pancake.
knocking down bigger guys. But he should play for Torpedo because he is the human torpedo. This kid.
Ah,
But
okay.
I
Okay.
guess he's with Locomotive, so that's appropriate too, right?
Mm-hmm. Human train. How about that?
Because he's choo-choo train coming down the tracks. Look at the back check on here. He's a captain of Loco Yaroslavl this year as a 17-year-old, which is pretty impressive. But you can see just with why, because he's full of character. This kid, he's skilled too. He's like he can skate, got really good puck skills, can shoot the puck, gets lots of points. But this is what impresses me the most is just his. He loves to finish checks, and he finishes them. Like he knocks everybody down every time he hits.
That's it.
This one you don't really see, but you can tell the guy just went into the boards heavy.
Splat.
But like it's funny when I saw, okay, well, this guy's fairly highly ranked on elite prospects. I'll have a look at him. 5'10", always probably soft. And then I started watching, and it's like, oh no, look at this one.
Okay,
that was against Kazakhstan U17s, and I don't know if that kid's still might not be up. He's that kid is full of character, and I'm highly impressed by this kid's grit, and I think it reminds me a lot of Wendell Clark. Like he plays that style of game. Now he's not as big as Clark, and I don't know if he can fight, but if he hits like that in the NHL, he'll have
better
to
be ready. Yeah, better be ready.
Yeah. But that's intriguing. I mean, you gotta love a kid with that kind of spunk, and he'll be a second round candidate, I think, if he can put up some numbers. Just based on his competitiveness, it's off the charts.
Yeah, that's it. And, these kinds of prospects are always interesting because teams are drafting to win the cup, right? And these kinds of guys in the playoffs, they wear and tear on the other team, and they make that job so much more difficult. So, that's definitely a name to keep an eye on. Finishing off here with our prospect of the week. This one's a mouthful, but I'm going to give it a try anyways. Michael Branseg Nygaard. Try to fit that behind a jersey. Let's have a look at this kid.
Yeah, he's complete. I love. He's Norwegian actually, and if you probably pronounce it Mikael Branseg Nygaard. I know, like it's Nylander, it's not Nylander, so the Y I think is pronounced like E. So Nygaard, and I think that they're probably going to drop the Branseg just because it gets complicated. So, but here he is on the back check, protecting the empty net. Really good defensively. He's got power forward potential. That touch pass there was fantastic. He just really smart, very skilled. Love his two-way game. He's got good size. I like his name too, Nygaard. Like that's a hockey name,
It is.
I think that translates to Mikey shin pad. Mikael Nygaard is Mikey shin pad. But anyway, he. You just see the puck skills, the smarts, the competitiveness there. He lifted this guy's stick on the back check. I love kids that take care of their own end too and hit. Now this is Allsvenskan, so it's another 17-year-old playing against men, and he has no no issues with mixing it up. But you see the skill here. Look at that. As Chris Byrne would say, whoop. He did the old whoop there. And really good edge, really good edges, really good skill. Scouts love players that are safe, like that check off all the boxes and you don't have to worry about any particular thing. And he's one of those kids where he's got it all. Look at that move. He's picked up points in all 3 Allsvensson's games so far in the past week. Again, just the dipsy doodle. Some guys, they got lots of dipsy and no doodle. He's got dipsy and doodle, and again, mixing it up. So if he can put up a point per game at the Allsvenskan level, that's fantastic for a young prospect. Again, beautiful lead pass there. Love everything about this kid. He looks like a top 10, another guy that's moved into my top 10 that wasn't necessarily there because I hadn't really seen a lot of him. Now, he wasn't at Helenka because he's a late birthday, so a little off the radar in that sense, but and also playing Norway, you don't see him at all the big, the U18 events because Norway's not in them typically. But I always find it impressive when there's a kid that grew up playing, Norway or wherever, where the level of hockey's not as high. And then they come into Sweden or wherever they play and excel. It just goes. I think it's an example of a kid that the sky's the limit. Like there could be a pile of improvement over the next few years. And if he just keeps getting better, wow. I love top 2 line potential, and I think coaches are going to love him. Now, when you're scouting, you like to draft guys that that your coaches are going to love because he'll get opportunity. And that's all you ask for with the kids you draft is that they get opportunity because otherwise you just don't know. There's been a ton of skilled players over time that never got the opportunity, and thus they never got the chance to show just how good they can be at the NHL level. And so it's important to get kids that you think that your coach is going to like. And that's a kid that I'm positive when an NHL coach sees him at the first camp, he's going to say, oh, we drafted a good one.
There you go. Exciting stuff from Mr. Shinpad over here. That about wraps it up for us today, Grant. Obviously, if you're watching, don't forget to go check out recruits.ca. Grant, is your top 80 posted already?
Well, for subscribers, yeah. If you click on draft rankings 2004, they've been up actually for a couple days. I've been kind of keeping it under wraps, but yeah, anybody that subscribes that has draft coverage, you click on 2004 draft rankings and there's, I think, 81, and it's just going to keep increasing. Like as the more I scout, the more guys that I identify that are draft worthy, and I keep adding to the list. So it'll be next week, it'll be 90 probably, it'll be 100 the week after, and we'll see. I typically stop at 120, but this year, because I've got such a jump on things, I might rank 150 or so this year. So wow. Bonus.
Awesome. Well, that's good stuff for Recruits members. So don't forget to subscribe to recruits.ca and subscribe to this channel because we'll be talking about prospects the entire year. Okay. We don't take any breaks here. Okay. It's Sick Podcast. This is a 365-day operation. We don't slack. So with that being said, thank you for watching. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, and we will see you very soon.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast, Recruits Draftcast on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.